It's Bourbon Night. Hello, I'm Chad.
I'm Sarah.
And 7,500 subscribers, Sarah.
Who knew? Who would have thought?
So we're going to do our patented Q&A, which isn't... We need to file that patent, I guess.
Yeah.
We're the only ones who ever do Q&As.
No.
Yesterday we sent out this lovely picture of us, asking for you to send us in your questions, and you did that in record amount. So what we're going to try to do is go through as many of them, plus we've got a few emails, as we can during this episode. There were some that were kind of like doubles, so we're going to, just whichever one came to us first, we're going to read that one and disregard the duplicate.
Yes.
And we're also going to try something.
Yeah, we are going to try something. We've been meaning to try this for a while now. This is from our friend Leonard, who kindly sent us some Blanton's Gold. This was dumped July 18th, 2016, at barrel number 1,264, bottle number 53. And it's 103 proof. And we're very excited because we can't get this in the U.S. And we've had it for a while. It's just been tough to get through our regular bottles and our samples and...
Yeah. Okay, first question. This is one that we didn't get in, on our Instagram post, but we have been asked before in YouTube comments, and that's, are you guys ever going to be on Patreon? Well, until last Sunday,
The answer was yes, but not yet.
And after last Sunday, the answer is yes!
Yeah, we are.
We are on Patreon, and we're actually really pumped about it because we're going to use it as a way to really crowdsource information from you guys, get opinions, ask you what you really want to see next.
Take polls,
what's gonna make it into the flight fights. We're doing that actually right now with the other 2 flights of our rye flights we're gonna do, and so on and so forth. And we have a lot of good, we think, levels, and there's actually gonna be more. There's gonna be merch coming to those levels once we get the merch rolled out, and so on and so forth. Anyway, we're gonna do a video that talks about it, so we're not gonna get too much into it here, just wanna get to these questions. But you can go to patreon.com/itsbourbonnight, and you can see it, and you can become a patron, and we already have 8 wonderful, lovely human beings that we're so thankful to have. So yes, we're on Patreon.
And a lot of people have also been asking us, when are we gonna go live, or what's our schedule for going live? And that's actually our first goal.
Very first goal
on our Patreon page is to be able to reach the level to where we can go live once a week. And they're like, what day will that be? And we're like, we don't know yet. We will find out when we get there.
And keep it consistently that day.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
All right. On to some questions. Why does Sarah look so drunk in this picture? LOL.
That was
because she is. How do I know that I'm real and not just someone else's dream?
I think you're going to need to see a therapist for that one.
I think so. Maybe pinch yourself? That's usually what I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. How did you guys meet, and how did Bourbon Night really begin and change into what it is today? Well, that's, kind of a longer answer. But
we did get that question a few times, though.
Yeah. So I guess we should delve into it a little bit.
Where to begin? Well, at the young age of... No, I'm just kidding.
You were working for a restaurant group.
Yes, that was opening a bourbon bar. So I started to get into bourbon.
Yeah, you were in marketing.
I was.
And I was working at a company that was hired to help them with a service before the launch of their thing. And yeah, I'm keeping it mysterious because there's other questions down here that maybe that'll come out. But that's where we met. We met in a official capacity of client-employer.
Yeah, client-vendor.
Client-vendor, there you go. And we went back for another job, and that's actually I think, probably didn't even speak to you that first time.
Yeah, I think the first time we were just so worried about getting the job done.
Yeah. The second time we actually talked a little bit, and then found out that she was also actually kind of cool, besides just liking bourbon. Had some good taste in movies, and so on and so forth. Well, then she says, hey, your company is really cool. I want to go work for them. So then she applies and gets hired there. She comes over. So now we're working together, and then the bourbon tasting just happens. I'm like, you like bourbon, I like bourbon, you should come over, we'll drink bourbon. So we started doing that. We started having bourbon nights off air, just writing down our thoughts on stuff. And then it's like, I've always wanted to do this on YouTube. And you were like,
yeah, let's do it.
And that's how it started.
Well, first I was like, won't everyone make fun of me? Don't people shame other people on YouTube? And you know what? I couldn't have been more wrong.
That's right. You all have been
because everyone
lovely.
has been so sweet. Thank you.
As lovely as this bourbon smells.
Yes. I've been drinking it. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I know.
No, we're gonna sip on it for a while.
And then we'll give you some thoughts midway through. So.
Next question. Is Sarah single? Follow-up question. I love her. Not a question, sir.
Watch our 5,000 Q&As.
Yeah, go back one Q&A, watch that, you'll have your answer. Do bourbons of a similar proof and age taste so similar that you can't really tell them apart?
That's not a question I've asked myself before, but we've been talking lately about doing some more like groupings of flights and things, so I was thinking we could do like a bottled and bond flight and kind of figure out the answer to that question, which is, as of now, unknown.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think it does get harder when they're closer in proof and age and so forth, but you get different mash bills, different distilleries, different maturation processes from your different distilleries in this motion. It's obviously easier when you have something that's 120 proof versus something that's 80 proof, but when you're close in age and proof, you really have to start getting those nuances from the different distilleries or the different mash bills or the different, even levels of the warehouse that it was aged in. So yeah, it can get tricky for sure.
Can you always pick the bourbon from the rye? No. I've never blinded a bunch of bourbons and ryes and tried to choose which one either, though. But we did just do our lowest level 80 to 90 proof rye flight fight, and there was one that I remember saying, if you didn't tell me this was a rye, I would not think it was a rye. So I think that there are some that are milder, lower proof that I think you would think it was just a high rye bourbon. So yeah. Any advice for developing your palate and learning how to describe tasting bourbon? And we got that question a couple of times too. Something that's really helped us a lot, other than drinking a lot of bourbon and a lot of different things, is using a bourbon flavor wheel. That's something kind of when we're just hanging out, we have one of those out or keep it in mind, kind of look at it. When you're tasting, maybe have your initial thoughts and then go back for another taste and try and see if you can match anything. Sometimes it's hard, you're like, it's something, but I just can't put my finger on it. And I think having that wheel, you can sort of get in the general direction and kind of narrow down what the flavors that you're picking up.
You have a friend who's a more seasoned bourbon drinker, do a lot of tastings with them, and you try to go first, and when you're stumbling, turn to them like, what is that one little thing that I'm tasting? And they can say, well, do you taste this? Of course, a lot of that can be power of suggestion, but a lot of times it's like, you know what, I really do legitimately taste that. Thank you. I just couldn't put my tongue on it as it is. Why does Knob Creek Single Barrel also say small batch? I've asked someone this in the industry before, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was. But basically the answer that I remember is a single barrel is the smallest of small batches.
What is your favorite non-bourbon American whiskey? Again, we had an episode on this recently. I would have to say right now it's the Pikesville Rye.
I would say it's the same thing. We don't, try a lot of non-bourbon American whiskeys unless it's ryes, and even then, the bourbon greatly outweighs it. The reason for that is just because it's bourbon night and we're buying these bottles, so we put our money towards stuff that's going to be in our category.
Yeah.
But I would also second that and say the Pikesville Rye for sure. I struggle with high proof barrel. What works well? Adding water to it, of course, cuts down the proof. Little tiny ice cube in there, let that melt a little bit, and just drinking more of it. Honestly, will get you more used to it. Just get you kind of acclimated to it. Exactly. So that's our recommendation. What's
your high ABV limit? I think
139.4 in the Elijah Craig barrel proof.
The highest one that we have.
I believe so.
Will you be trying any more scotch? Actually, a very nice friend of ours named James just gave us a little box full of a bunch of different scotches.
Like a dozen
different tastes. So we will be trying all 12 of those. We cannot guarantee that we will like any of them, but we will try them. It's my personal goal to find one that I like, at least decently. What's your favorite bourbon-based cocktail? Oh, that's a tough one.
I'm gonna say the Tight Spot.
I do really like it in the summer.
I love the Tight Spot.
I also love a whiskey sour with the wine float, like a New York sour. I really like those.
And then last part of that question, rye-based. I would say an old-fashioned. I think a rye whiskey works really well in an old-fashioned. I love a good old-fashioned. Our pal who has graced us once before on this channel, Jake on the Rocks, asks, which whiskey would be your Patronus and why? Well, Jake, my Patronus would be a turkey from Wild Turkey. A rare turkey, kind of a rare breed of a turkey. I don't know what to call it, but just a rare breed turkey. Sarah?
I thought on this for a while, and I couldn't come up with an answer that was as good as that. So I chose a horse, only because, not because of Kentucky or anything like that, but because of that amazing bottle of French Blanton's that we uncorked a little while back from Maison du Whiskey, and that has horses all over it, and obviously on the cap. And it was delicious, and I loved it. So.
Speaking of Blanton's, let's talk about what we've been drinking on here.
Yes, let's talk about this Blanton's
Gold.
It's so light and floral, and just, it's really good. It's good. Perfect balance for, I think, 103 proof. That's what it is, right? 103? Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely got more kick than your typical Blanton's that we're used to over here in America. I like how you get more of the oak tones out of it. Especially, we've been letting it kind of sit on our palate. On the back end, you get more of just like, the oak barrel influence there. It doesn't quite. A lot of those will go towards like a chocolate note.
Yeah.
This one it doesn't really float that way.
I actually at the end get like this is really weird, but like a toasted marshmallow taste. Like it's a creaminess on the back of my tongue. But other than that, like I really like the mouthfeel. It lets you know it's 100 proof, but it's not, I don't know, it's just nice. Very warm, very good.
Yeah, indeed. It's definitely a treat.
It's 12 degrees here, so I'm like, just warm me up. This is your job.
Yeah, do your job.
Thanks, Leonard.
Thank you, Leonard. Would you put a bourbon in a decanter, and if so, which would you choose to put in one? Daily drinker or special occasion in a decanter? I would go daily drinker if I was to put one in there, just because I would know always what it is, and you could do the thing after you see people do on CW shows. They go over the conversation and they walk over and they turn their back to the person and they take off the top and they pour from the decanter and they put it back in and they come back and they finally answer your question that they asked, the person 5 minutes ago. Yeah, I would do daily drinker because if it's something special, you want that label on there to tell people, hey, this isn't a joke, So I definitely say daily drinker, something that if you just happen to forget what's in there, it's not going to be a big deal. What about you?
Honestly, I'm not really into decanters. Like, I think they have been marketed really well. Like, oh, you can get your initials engraved, or like it's a good groomsman gift, or whatever. For me, I think a lot of the bourbon culture is about discussing the bottle, what's on the label, we talk about age or we talk about proof, we go back to what barrel is that, what bottle is that, like what year is that, or anything like any of those things off a bottle. And when you ditch the bottle to put it in a decanter, like, yeah, it looks cool, like you are on a TV show, but really when people come over and they ask about what's in there, you don't have that anymore. And
you could tell them anything you want.
I wonder if I put my Evan Williams 1783 in a decanter, if people would like it better.
You should try that.
I'm gonna try that.
Nice. What do you guys do for a living? And do you ever think you'll do something in the whiskey or bourbon industry as a career?
I sure hope so.
That'd be cool. We both work in video production, but just as a disclaimer, everything that we do here is done away from there. It's done with our own equipment, our own time. Like, nothing from our job comes here. Everything that we do is stuff
separate and apart,
and stuff that we've bought, our own time.
This is our hobby.
Yeah. It's our passion. It's la passion.
Yeah.
So that's the field that we both come from, but they are, they're separate.
Yeah. When are the two of you going to be on the ABV network? Actually, I have one coming up on the 25th, I believe, 24th, 25th, Thursday of next week.
Of January of 2018.
Of January. Yes.
So they could be watching this
so
far in the future.
My fault. January 2018, I believe the 25th.
And I've been on two of the Bourbon Daily episodes.
Any other podcasts that you would like to be the guest on? I'm happy to be on anything. I just like to talk about it and meet new people. It's a great way to make connections and just have a good time. I mean, everyone's so friendly. There's nothing I wouldn't want to be on. So
we've done a live episode with the Scotch Test Dummies, and we've been on This Is My Bourbon podcast twice with our friend Perry. So you can check that out. The first episode that we're on is actually for those people kind of wanting to know our origin story. We go much more in depth into kind of how Bourbon Night got started. So check it out. It's This Is My Bourbon Podcast, which you can find on iTunes and all the good
also
ones.
on YouTube. Yep.
And last part of the question is, would you consider having other casters on Bourbon Night or uncorking? Yeah. In fact, last year we had 5 of them on. Mm-hmm. We had a week of guest uncorkings. So we had like Evan Haskell of the ABV Network. We had Jake on the Rocks, who had a question earlier about the Patronus. So we had, so absolutely. We love doing that. We love connecting with other people, mm-hmm. and we welcome that, and we hope to do that more again in the future.
If you could recommend one bourbon from a U.S. craft distillery to us guys across the pond, which would it be? This is where it gets a little bit tricky because it's like, what is your definition of craft? Some people would say that Willet is a craft distillery.
Because it's on the craft distillery tour, yeah.
And is Jefferson's? Jefferson's is also on the craft distillery trail, isn't that correct?
I believe they're on it now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Don't take our word for that 100%.
Not sure.
But like, those are easier to get. When you're talking like really craft, like very local stuff, it's gonna be really tough to get. So, I mean, if you consider Willet a craft distillery, which I think that we should if it's on the craft distillery tour, then I would say, I like the Rowan's Creek, Noah's Mill. We had good luck with bottles a while back. We've got one right now that's iffy, but I think it was just a fluke.
Hopefully,
because we really like it.
Yeah. Johnny Drum is also made by Willet. So if you went like mid-range, I would say that Rowan's Creek, if you can get it.
Yep. Do you find when introducing someone to bourbon that high rye or high wheat is better? I personally think that wheated bourbons are better because they tend to be more mild and sweeter, and like a lot of people's first bourbon is Maker's Mark, which I feel like is a good intro to kind of graduate them in that area and then get them into things that have more flavor, more spice. I feel like giving someone a high rye up front with all the spice can just scare them off if it's too much for them, it's too overwhelming.
Or high proof.
Yeah, or high proof. I definitely think low proof wheated bourbon would be a good intro.
Mm-hmm. So last part of that is, what's your go-to bourbon when introducing the drink to someone who's never had it before? That's kind of a noodle scratcher. We're so far removed from knowing. We've actually got some episodes planned there's some friends at work who are not bourbon drinkers. We're actually going to test this out with some of the, standard ones, and we've been kind of putting it out there on social media, like, what do you all think, so we can kind of get our lineup, and we'll just go ahead and ask this here. If what you all think, put it down in the comments.
Sure.
A lot of people say Basil Hayden, maybe just because it's 80 proof, I don't know, because I think that one's kind of a higher rye, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Things like that. So we don't know, but we're looking into it, and we'll have an episode for you about just that. How about that? This next question is about Cracker Time, which we love.
We do.
What's your favorite palate cleansing cracker, wheat or rye? We've actually done a lot of research onto this.
We've had a lot of crackers.
We've gone through, more than I thought.
We really like oyster crackers.
Yeah.
They're bite-sized, like normal crackers crumble, and you have to split them up in multiple bites. Oyster crackers are light, airy, touch of salt, nothing flavorful. Yeah, just pop one in your mouth, you're good to go.
Once you pop, you just can't stop.
It's kind of true. Will you ever include scores in your reviews? It's actually interesting. Normally we don't. Normally we do a small enough amount in a short period of time to where we can rank them as we're doing them, and there's no need to score. We did do scores. The one time we've done scores is when we were doing our best of 2017 blind. We had, 13 different blind sample bottles. And at that point we were trying them different days over different times. And so we kind of had to score them because we couldn't recall day between day how to rank them. So that was the only possible way to rank them.
And I guess, on our uncorkings, we could have a score. I think looking at our 2017 best of video, kind of been thinking as we do uncorkings in 2018, even if it's not said to you all, to kind of be like, well, this one I would rank this, just so you can keep a log, and then at the end of 2018 we can go back and be like, well, obviously these were our favorites.
That's a good point.
As far as the ranking thing, we never claim to be experts at this. We're not
enthusiasts.
We're not certified or anything. So maybe that's why we've kind of been shying away from actually putting a score on there or a letter grade or anything. That is something that we might explore, and we are talking about this year doing some things to maybe even further our senses. Possibly.
And I mean, when you're talking about scoring, you're really just talking about it's very subjective. You know, what you score highly might not score highly for someone else, and then vice versa. Like, if I don't like licorice, I might score a bourbon that has a licorice note poorly, even though someone else might love it. You know, so it's really hard to do a score. I think our descriptions and reactions are kind of our way of giving you a sense of how we feel about it without having to put a number on it.
Yeah, another thing is, you know, we've had some people say, I don't trust those scores that they put on the neck of the bottles. I trust what, you know, you guys recommend because you don't have any skin in the game. And, you know, that's kind of, it's like, yeah, we don't want to be another... We gave it a 92, you know, out of 100, and so you should definitely get it. And then, you know, so...
Wish. It's bourbon night, gave it a 92 out of 100.
Yeah,
so
put that on the neck of a bottle. I don't know. So, you know, it's something... This is this show is never done. It's always growing and changing constantly. So we're never going to say we're never going to do scores, but, you know, it's something to think about in 2018. You've single-handedly put the Tribeca glass on the map. Thank you. Any etched merch coming out? I know this is kind of a lame response, but it's on our to-do list of 2018.
Yes. It's a long list.
It is a long list. Yes, for sure. It is for sure going to happen. 2018, I think it's pretty safe to say it'll happen in 2018.
It better happen in 2018.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to happen in 2018.
Yes.
We're working on
it. I mean, these are two of a kind.
These were just
but
prototypes, kind of.
Yeah, prototypes.
Samples.
Yeah, birthday gift. But yes.
Yeah.
And more.
Yes.
T-shirts? Yes.
Yes.
This next one is like a four-parter, so I think we might just have to pick one of the four to answer here. Has there ever been a highly anticipated or highly desired bourbon that you purchased or sampled and were underwhelmed? For sure, but I think the one that stands out the most...
I think we're on the same page here.
1, 2, 3. Old Forester birthday bourbon. Yeah. And that, you know what? That might just be recent years.
My 2015 is undrinkable.
It's pretty bad, folks.
But I love 1920 so much. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with it. The 2017 you got, right, this year's? Not a ton better.
Better than that 2015. And what's weird is our friend Perry said that he has slightly different proof of this year, and it's miles better. So
he tried the one.
And he tried the one actually
and agreed.
on our second podcast episode of his This Is My Bourbon podcast, and he agreed it's awful. So he's gonna bring over his bottle, and we're gonna try them back to back. It's gonna be a thing. So just wait for that.
Yep.
So we had this post out for about 18 hours before we started filming this. So if you submitted a question after that time, we didn't get to it.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. And if we didn't read yours, it was probably because it was a duplicate, or it's just something that we just thought would just be better just for us to respond to you. But we are going to respond to you. We want to answer everyone's questions. So thanks so much for watching. Can't believe we're at 7,500 already.
I know.
Our next Q&A video is going to be at 10,000.
Oh my
And of
gosh.
course, we're going to be going live once we hit that Patreon goal, which hopefully won't be too long, and then we'll do Q&As all the time, along with trying more samples and this and that's and everything. So,
everything. Sky's the limit.
Everything. Who knows? Who knows what we'll do? Maybe go to Home Depot. I don't know if we'll have enough time. Say Home Depot.
Yep.
Home Depot.
What is that?
Home Depot.
Oh, great.
Bed Bath & Beyond. Home Depot. I don't know. I don't know if we'll have enough time. Thanks again to Leonard for being the bourbon sponsor of this episode by sending us some Blanton's Gold. It is delicious. I highly recommend, if you have the means, to pick it up. It is very good.
It's quite tasty.
So with that in mind, we'll see you in 10,000. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Chad.
All right. Until next time, drink more bourbon.
Are you drunk?